Good evening, everybody. We're going to call to order the Town Council of Lake Clark Shores Town Council meeting for February 7th, 2023. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
Vice Mayor Robert Shalhoub.
Here.
President Pro Tem Gregory Freebold.
Here.
Councilmember Valteen Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Gonzalez.
All right. And just for all those listening online, instead of proceeding with the candidate forum at this time, we're going to postpone that to the end of the regular council meeting to allow candidate Maples an opportunity to attend and arrive. All right. We could please stand for a moment of silence. Earlier this year, Dottie Kuchu passed away at 75 years young. She was Councilman Val Rodriguez's mother and Susanna Smith's grandmother. Also, Judge Arthur Art Roble at 85 years young, longtime resident of Lake Clark Shores, and Hank Gonzalez at 76 years young. He was the past president of the board of directors for Young Singers of the Palm Beaches, who supported Lake Clark Shores events for many years. May their memories be eternal. Pastor, would you be so kind as to lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
It'd be my honor, Mayor. Thank you. Let's look to the Lord. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, values others above yourselves. Not only looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Heavenly Father, this room is filled with people that love this community. And so, Father, I would pray that by your Spirit, you would continue to lead, guide, and give us wisdom, that we might serve you and serve each other well, to bring you honor and glory. In thy precious holy name, we pray. Amen. Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always beautiful words. All right, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Take a motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So it's not on the agenda, but there's a very special presentation I'd like to make this evening to our very own Officer Manick. For those of you who know Officer Manick, this is not going to come as a surprise. For those of you who do not know Officer Manick, allow me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about him. He donates all of his time and service to our town. He covered shifts on the police force, work details, and represented our department at various events and functions over the last year. As a result of him donating his time and his efforts, he has saved our town over $47,000. He has also generated many thank yous from our residents for the services he has provided while patrolling our neighborhoods to keep our residents safe. If you could all join me in a round of applause for Officer Manick. Come on up here, Officer Manick.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, we have
Work it.
I don't need to be in it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
I also want to take this time to recognize some of our other officers who have served our town in wonderful ways for a long time. I want to start with Corporal Durena, who has served for the last 12 years of service. Sergeant William Howell, 20 years of service. And Lieutenant Fisher, 16 years of service. You know, I've been here for a very long time, and we have a lot of officers during that time come and go. It says a lot about the dedication of these three officers to our community, stick around this long and serve our residents and protect us. So thank you all very much. And right before we do an applause for these well-deserving officers, I want to recognize our chief, who's been our chief for the last 20 years of the town of Lake Clark Shores. So we can all give a round of applause to these fine officers. Thank you for allowing me to divert from the agenda a little bit there. All right, we're going to move on to quasi judicial proceedings. This is 8170 Westlake Drive variance request. We'll start with a presentation by the town attorney, Mr. Scheck.
The Zoning Board of Adjustment held a public hearing on January 18th to consider the request of the applicants Tom and Elizabeth Spencer. They requested a variance for the property located at 8170 Westlake Drive. The code requires a 25-foot setback, and they were asking for, or are asking for, a 13.3-foot rear variance, water's edge, to an existing pool. So it's a 13.3-foot variance, required 25-foot setback. The zoning board heard the matter and recommends that the town council of the town approve the variance for the screen enclosure as requested by the applicants.
Thank you very much. Are we broadcasting on this? Okay, because I didn't see anything up on the television.
I think we're waiting on some screen.
Is Mr. and Mrs. Spencer here? Oh, yes, come on up. It's this is your opportunity to please do your presentation to us of your application. To the council, not just to me, the whole council. You could pull the microphone up a little bit. Thank you.
We would requesting this application, have a screen enclosure. And when the house was built and the pool was built, everything was according to code at that time. I purchased the house 32 years ago and lived there ever since. And we would like to have this to make our home a better home. And we can enjoy the outdoor more. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
It's a public hearing.
I showed you.
I think we have all the information in our packets.
Mayor,
Yes.
I did neglect that because this is a quasi judicial.
Oh, they'd be sworn
We
in.
need to swear them in.
We'll go ahead and do that.
Anyone who is going to speak on this matter, if you would please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Would you be so kind as just briefly repeat what you just said?
Now that we're legal, would you like that again?
Yes, please.
So, as I said earlier, when purchasing this home in 1990, the pool was already there and it was in according to code. But by today's code, it's too close to the water to put in a screen enclosure. and we requested a variance on that setback so that a screen enclosure can be added to our property.
All right, thank you very much. Does council have any questions, or can we move on to the rebuttal witness? Rebuttal, no, all right. No questions at this time. Thank you very much. You can have a seat.
Okay.
Is anyone in the audience wanting to rebut this application and basically speak against it? Anyone online? Well, can they even do that online? Because you got to get sworn in.
I would recommend that we not take
that's
testimony
what I think.
online. And if there's anyone here who is also in support of the variance, they have the ability to speak also, not just those that are opposed.
All right. So anybody here in the audience want to speak against this variance request? Going once, going twice. All right. We're going to move on to council comments. We'll start with Councilman Rodriguez.
I think it's a legitimate, reasonable request. I know that their house very well. I've been to it. You have a lot of relatives that live in town as well. You've long-term, your daughter lived here, both daughters. Your house looks great. You've remodeled the inside. You've done it all yourself. You've explained that to me before. I think it would look actually nice to have that screen, and I don't think it would be a hindrance in any way from the view from the lake. So I think it's a reasonable.
President Pro Tem Freebold.
You have a pool heater? The screen keeps it cold. Congratulations.
Vice Mayor Shalhoub.
I remember when the girls came through back in, I think it was 5 and 6, and tore down literally half of the screened-in enclosures. When I say the girls, Francis and Jean. When now they wanted to put the screen enclosures back up, and they were met with the same issues that you are doing right now, that you're confronting. And I did not redo my screened enclosure. I love it. It's just wide open. So I support it. So moved.
All
Mr.
right.
Mayor, this is Robert Gonzalez on the phone, if you can hear me.
I can hear you, Councilman Gonzalez. Welcome.
Sorry for my tardiness. We had a little bit of a connection issue, but again, no issues with the screen enclosures. Mosquitoes are terrible, and I fully support it.
Okay. I'll take a motion as far as a conclusion, finding of facts and conclusion of law.
So moved.
All right, motion to find the facts and conclusion of law by the Zoning Board of Adjustments that they've asked for us to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Congratulations, your variance request has been approved. All right, we're going to move on to the next variance request and special exception as it relates to the property at 6760 Escondia Drive. Charlie, would you be so kind as to proceed with your presentation?
Also on January 18th, the Zoning Board of Adjustment considered the case from Juan and Lily Carcheri, who are at 6760 Escondido Drive. The applicant sought relief from the zoning code requesting a 7.5-foot variance to build a pool on the rear utility easement line with relief from the 7.5 setback as required from the code. The applicants also asked for a special exception from the code to allow the pool to be placed in the side yard. I need to point out that there were only 3 members of the zoning board present to hear this case and the previous case. Because there were only 3 members present, in order for a motion to pass, it required unanimous vote. The board considered the testimony, and the board found as follows. The board recommended that the applicants amend their request to place the water's edge of the pool 2 feet from the setback line. The applicants agreed to this change. The motion recommended that the town council approve a 5.5 foot variance with a 2-foot setback instead of having the pool's edge at the utility easement. the vote on that motion was 2 in favor, 1 against. And because it was not unanimous, the motion failed. Had 4 members been present, it could have passed on a 3-to-1 vote, but it could not pass on a 2-to-1 vote. But the recommendation was to approve it, and that vote was 2-to-1. The Zoning Board of Adjustment also considered the special exception for the pool being in the side yard, and they voted unanimously to allow for this special exception for the side yard. So the first motion failed because of the lack of 3 votes. The second motion passed.
So do we need to take, is a request for us to take action on request 2 or both? Because,
Both,
okay,
both.
that's what I thought.
But because one is a variance and one is a special exception, I would recommend that you have 2 votes.
Okay,
And if anyone is going to speak, we do need to swear them in.
before I call for that, do you recommend they testify, speak, if you will, present and rebut on each separately, or can they do it together?
They can do it together.
All right. Do we have the Charcheris here tonight? All right. If you would like to speak, and if anybody wants to argue against it or rebut their application, please stand so you can be sworn in.
If you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please tell us about your request.
All right, good evening, fellow council members. Thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're all busy. I'm here with my wife Lily. So as you heard already, we're requesting 2 things: a variance on the rear utility easement setback requirement, as well as a special exception to allow the pool to be partially residing on the side yard. Due to the uniqueness of our lot, there is both 25-foot drainage easement as well as a 50 feet utility easement on the rear side of the property. In addition, we also have a 6-foot utility easement on that side. So with those 3 easements, we actually don't have any space to build any structure on our yard. We are the only property in the community that have both the rear and side utility easements. So these easements and the current setback requirements do prevent us from putting in a pool. The review completed by the zoning official and the staff did result in the overall recommendation that the original variance request of 0-foot setback on the rear utility easements of property be granted, as well as a side special exception for use of the pool. And as you've heard, during the zoning board meeting, all 3 members in attendance did recommend approval of the side yard special exception. And in addition, the majority, 2 out of 3 recommended moving forward with the variance request, but with a 2-foot setback instead of the 0-foot setback that we initially requested. We have taken the board members' recommendation, agreed to it, and so we've updated the drawings that are in your package to show that 2-foot setback. We feel that this variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the property, only enhance it. Adding a pool to this property would add value, as well as allow our family, especially our 2 young boys, ages 3 and 6, to enjoy the rights that are commonly enjoyed by other properties. Granting this variance would not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property. Also in your package, you do have a signed letter from the HOA president with their support of the requested variance and the side pool exception, stating that it does not pose any issues within the community. That's included in your package. We believe the requested variance would be consistent with the spirit and purpose of this town, which is to enhance, maintain, and elevate the value of all properties within its boundaries. We thank you for your time.
Thank you all very much. Does council have any questions before we call any rebuttal applicants?
No questions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. You may be seated. Appreciate your presentation. Does anybody here in the audience wish to rebut or speak against the approval of the variance that's been requested? Does anybody in the audience wish to speak against the approval of the special exception that's been requested? Okay. close that part of the hearing, and we're gonna move on to the council comments. All right, we'll start with Councilman Rodriguez.
I've listened to the petitioner's statements. I've reviewed the packet. I agree that this is a reasonable request. I'm encouraging everyone to put pools in their house if they can, and I think it's just a benefit to the whole community and the value of the property in the area. So I would have no problem. And the fact that you agreed to this change, I think is commendable, that you were willing to work with the persons who made the suggestion. That's all I have.
Thank you. President Pro Tem.
Nope, looks good here. Removing the shed, it's, yep.
All right, Councilman Gonzalez.
You got booted off.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
No, I'm good to go. They've met the criteria as established by the ZBA, and on request number 1 and request number 2, ready to vote.
All right, we'll start with request number 1. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's go with request number 2.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And for the record, that motion is to accept the recommendation of the zoning board of adjustment and approve both the variance and to approve the special exception.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
So that
Correct.
we
You want
just
me to
want to
read
make
it to
sure
the
the
record?
findings of fact are part of your order.
You want me to read it?
No, you do not need to read it.
Okay. How about this? Adopt the statement that was signed by Brenda Hoffman, board member. There
Is
you go.
that a motion to amend?
No,
Motion to adopt?
motion to adopt. ZBA case number 2023-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye,
All right.
thank you.
Congratulations. Getting your pool.
Yeah. Now, how long will it take?
I want you to know they misspelled Lake Clark in your deed.
All right. We don't have any public hearings. We're going to move on to unfinished business. That is the second and final reading of Ordinance 2023-01, extending the temporary moratorium imposed by Ordinance 2022-01 on enforcement of Section 125-767 sub A, sub B, and sub D for an additional 6 months. Mary?
You just read it. Do I need to read it again?
Well, there's more to it.
Okay. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida, extending the temporary moratorium imposed by Ordinance 2022-01 on enforcement of Section 125-767A, B, and D for an additional period of 6 months, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mary. Any audience comments on this ordinance? All right, anything online? Audience comments? All right, we'll take council action.
We'll move to second and final reading of ordinance 2023-01 as read.
All right, is there a second?
Can I ask Charlie a quick question? Charlie, we did say at the last meeting that if this were to occur before, it would wipe this out and it will enter into a new code, yes?
If you adopt an ordinance sooner than 6 months to address the issues that resulted in the moratorium can be ended early.
All right, just making that clear for everyone, because there's a lot of stuff going on out there regarding all of this.
All right, is there a second?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
All right, motion carries. We're going to move now to the ongoing septic sewer discussion. So it's the same as it was last month, with a couple little updates. I did speak with our representative, David Silvers. We are seeking appropriations requests from the state legislature in the amount of just shy of $3.7 million for our consideration to go forward with that project. So we'll see what happens this legislative session. Outside of that, and again, until we get proper funding, we're talking millions of dollars here, something with a 1.2 point something point millions of dollars in order to do this conversion project. The council is not going to be considering going forward with it or not going forward with it, because we need all the information and we need to continue our due diligence. The big piece of the pie now of information we're missing, costs. And we really won't know that cost, the cost of the residents, the cost of the town, et cetera, until we know the significant dollars that are going to be coming in and that are committed. Any other additional comments by council? Okay. We have no new business. Go to audience comments. So no one has submitted any of the written ones. So anybody here in the audience have any comments they'd like to make at this time? Yes.
Question. Mr. Mayor, Fran Carlton, 8432.
Could you come up? All right.
Fran Carlton, 8432 Waterway Drive. I have a question, and it's because I haven't been here recently. What is this ordinance that you all just extended? What are all the issues out there that y'all are talking about in this one that you just extended for 6 months? For those of us who maybe aren't aware of what that covers.
Sure. To answer that, the moratorium covers the enforcement of those specific provisions of the current trailer ordinance, so that we can have another workshop. We already had one, we'll have another one, and then find a way to amend the current code or make a decision on the current code so that A, the residents can more easily comply with it, and B, it makes sense for the current conditions and makeup of our town. So we're going to be working on that next month. Hopefully we'll have a workshop set up here in March would be great. We want to get everybody else involved. And then the council meeting thereafter, the council will have an opportunity to discuss what we learned at the 2 workshops and heard from the residents, and then start developing a solution.
And just for a little clarification, the ordinance that is not being enforced pertains to the parking of vehicles on residential property. And it includes trailers, boats, recreational vehicles, and commercial vehicles. And so we're looking at what vehicles should be allowed and which vehicles should be prohibited.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Any additional audience comments? Anything written or online?
No, sir.
All right. I'm going to move on to status reports. We'll start with Chief Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. The police department last month responded to 440 calls for service. We also responded to 26 calls to assist Palm Springs. They had a triple homicide involving narcotics, so we helped them with that. They had 2 drug deaths behind Wawa's on Lake Worth Road. We assisted with that. They had a bank robbery, and we assisted with the perimeter. Suspect was last seen coming towards Lake Clark. This subject committed another bank robbery and was shot and killed in Fort Lauderdale. Also this month, we had some drug arrest, which at the end of the month, you'll be giving awards out to the officers. This had to do with marijuana, extensive amount for us, also with pills. Also, the suspect was armed, and he had a stolen driver's license, and he was in possession of a stolen vehicle. The other subject was arrested for dealing in stolen property, fleeing and eluding traffic. And then another subject was picked up on a warrant. The police department increased traffic enforcement. So last month, we did 293 traffic stops. Now the average for Lake Clark's been about 60. So for the people that want the enforcement, it's up to 293 stops. 282 citations were issued. 29 of those were criminal. And we had 8 vehicle crashes, accidents. And our LPR cameras ran 194,628 tags. Those are vehicles coming in and out of the city. Out of that, we had 3 sex offenders and 2 stolen vehicles. One of the vehicles was involved in a shooting, I believe, in Lake Worth. These are all other jurisdictional that comes in through the town. And code enforcement issued 30 code violations for last month. Any questions?
We'll start with Councilman Rodriguez.
No, well, I'm glad that we're bringing on a retired FBI agent. That's
Yes.
always nice to have in town.
Yes, he's going to be working. He retired, and I knew him from the Law Enforcement Planning Council meetings, and he knew the Assistant Chief Sal. And he's retired, but he's still young enough, and he loved the town. He wanted to come to work for us and work part-time, so he'll be working part-time. And after he gets through the training, he'll probably be helping us on investigative stuff because that's what they're good at.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Is
I was gonna
Councilman,
ask you to talk about him, so, but that's good. It's kind of exciting that people are willing to come here and do the things that they do. Like Ed and this guy, I see there's another full-time officer and in the process of hiring a full-time code enforcement.
Right, we did hire a full-time code enforcement officer.
You
So
have,
Dana will be overseeing that. He starts next week. So you'll see a lot more code enforcement, but I got to get with town hall because we don't want to overwhelm them
sure,
with that.
sure.
And the Officer Tooley, he started, he's been on for about a week now.
Correct. Thursday will
Be a week, so.
good.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
293 traffic stops. Keep doing it. Traffic safety, traffic safety, traffic safety, and enforcement. I told you I want to give an award out for who gives the most warnings.
One thing I wanted to say, I heard somebody make a comment about why we had the police here, more police than normal. All of you have been briefed on the threats. Now, this is national threats. This came out of Miami. So this involves death threats for mayors and all the municipalities throughout the United States. It's more of an issue in South Florida. So that's about all I can say. But for the person who made a comment about why do they have to have police officers, the reason why is because the threat level against local government is way up. And these are things that you don't hear on the news or in the newspaper. So I'm very open. You all been briefed. You got the information.
Thank you very much, Chief. President Pro Tem Freeble?
Chief, I just wanted to let you know that in the mornings at the Pine Tree and Forest Hill intersection there,
Okay.
when there's an officer there, just sitting there, it really helps tremendously.
Okay, good.
I mean, they actually really pay attention. They're courteous. They don't block. Because sometimes, depending on what's going on with the train, that could get backed up. I mean, way backed up on our end because once it runs the cycle again, if the gates come down for the train. So when they're there, it's working well. I know they can't be there every day, but just
Yeah,
so
it's
you
about-
know, when they're there, it works.
There's approximately 60,000 cars.
Yeah.
That use that daily,
Yeah.
right there.
We're all just trying to make donuts.
Right.
So,
All right. We'll move on to Chief Adams.
Good
Welcome.
evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. Tracy Adams, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, one of the district chiefs. It's always a pleasure to serve your community. I feel very blessed. Thank you for having me as your local fire chief. We had 28 calls in January here in Lake Clark Shores. 19 of them were medical, and the additional were either vehicle accidents or assists or fire alarms. So going on in fire rescue world, right now we are doing active shooter training with PBSO. I just actually came from it where we are having mass casualty, full scale active shooter training. It's scary when you think about it, but I'm happy that we are preparing and we will be prepared. We did training back in June at Boca Raton High School with PBSO, and then we did training again in July at Palm Beach Central High School, a large-scale mass casualty shooting exercise. So now we are doing all day today and all day tomorrow from noon to midnight. I looked, it looks like we're putting through about 40 different units today, from engine companies, rescue companies, command staff, and we are having like a unified command with PBSO, with their upper echelon and our upper echelon, and literally have down and dirty training. It's really interesting when you go in. I got patted down today. There's no real weapons, but because they have simulation of the weapons and the shooting going on, so they really do it as realistic as we can. So we just want to be prepared out there in the event there is an emergency. We join up with the police department and we go in when it's safe to do so as a team with the police department, kind of in a triangle where the paramedic they're in the middle, surrounded by the officers with armor on as well, with going in there with tourniquets and life-saving equipment in the event of that happens. So that's the training that we do with the police department. So it's just we're doing everything we can to be prepared. I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So as a citizen, just be aware of your surroundings. Be aware when you go into large public places, where are your exit signs? Be aware that, if you get into a situation such as this, they say run. Can't run, hide. Can't hide, you fight. So it's not a fun topic. I'm sorry. I'm usually more of an upbeat person, but it's the reality of today. But be rest assured that Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is doing their due diligence to be prepared, to be trained, and be ready to act as needed. I don't have anything further for tonight except Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Chief. Always appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Scheck.
My report is included in your agenda packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Scheck?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I did have a question for.
My apologies. Yep.
Okay. Since you were so in touch with Palm Beach County, maybe you could ask them how much quicker you could respond if we could get Florida Mango back open. Because I know you have to figure out how to get to these locations with your trucks. And I mean, Florida Mango has been shut down for 5 months, and us just complaining isn't much, but maybe there's a fire rescue.
And luckily I have some experience working at the EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Center, as what's called, we have a fire operations officer, and that person there, I spent a couple of years doing it, was excellent experience because they were kind of liaison between what's going on in dispatch and what's going on in operations in the field. And so when I see those bulletins come over my desk, what I do is send it out to all the dispatch supervisors so they're aware, because that's going to affect how we respond. If you're not aware of that in that dispatch arena, you're not going to know where to pull from, who to send from. So our whole thing is about, closest response, get somebody to your emergency. So I think that might be DOT or somebody, but I'll do whatever I can. I'll ask.
Whatever, if we can get the whole village together and help people move it on.
Yes, let's go. Move it on.
Because in the middle of all this, we're repaving some roads, and today was like a disaster trying to figure out how to get home with the repaving of the roads. And then I can't imagine if there's a fire rescue.
I know I did do my due diligence though. They do know up there that there is that's going on, and hopefully, I don't know what the end date was. Do you know what the end date, their projected end date?
Dan would know.
Dan said he doesn't know.
They don't know.
They originally projected 6 months, but the way things are looking, it's another 6 months from today.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Adams?
Your response time has increased approximately 1 minute.
Which is significant.
I know.
Now it's over 9 minutes. So that road, I'm sure, Florida Mango has really impacted it.
Yes, agree.
Well, pardon me, over 8. They had non-emergency was 9 point.
Yeah, I see that. The travel,
7 minutes before.
Yep. Yes, I see the travel time, definitely, definitely.
All right. Mr. Clark.
I have an update I'd like to make. Today at 11:30, the Board of County Commission approved a change order for $512,000. So our total allocation for the sewer work. Somebody said something? The total allocation for the sewer work down south will now be $737,000.
That's great work.
That's awesome.
Really great work.
Mr. Mayor, I also have an email that came into Emily about a question from a resident when you're ready to take that.
Sure. Well, why don't we see if there's any other questions about your report, and then we'll take a question. Any questions of Mr. Clark on his report? All right. We'll take the audience question.
This question's from Jeff Sterling, who lives not in town, but lives at 2310 Edgewater Drive. The residents of Edgewater Park and Lake Clark Shores have coexisted amicably for the last 50 years. There are rumors that the Lake Clark Shores Town Council has executed an unprincipled annexation of Edgewater Park via House Bill 471, even though roughly 90% of Edgewater Park residents are in opposition, according to their own survey in 2020. Is this true? If so, what is the current status? I would appreciate hearing from each member of the council.
Sure. Anybody want to start? Well, I'll address I'll start. How about this? No, it's not been annexed. What has been done is that bill declared it an enclave. So there will be an annexation process that could be initiated thereafter with the county. But to answer his question, no, sir, it's not been annexed. Anyone else want to address it?
Well, they should also know that that enclave receives close to $250,000 worth of services that we provide at no cost to them. What does that mean? That means we give them $250,000 worth of our services, and they don't contribute a penny coming back to us. Is that right? Thank you.
He was asking you.
I can't remember the exact number, but yes, it's got to be near that.
So that's why
The rhetorical question went out to everybody.
but that
If you think that's right, just let us know.
that was a priority of mine back in 2017 and has been a desired accomplishment by this council for a long time. And after 5 or 6 years of diligent work, we were finally able to get our local bill passed. It was a really big victory for our town. Still a lot of work to be done in that regard, but it was a huge step to start to resolve those inequities with the unincorporated area. All right. That concludes our status reports. We'll move on to council comments. Is Councilman Rodriguez, is he online? Still? I'm sorry, Councilman Gonzalez.
No, sir, he dropped off.
Okay, sorry, Councilman Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'll just start. One thing I wanted to just ask the council, and I talked to Dan Clark a little bit about this, is we have our tennis tournament on the 25th of this month. And this, because of the barbecue, we can't really use staff because they're all working on the barbecue stuff. But I'm going to ask the council if you would approve up to $500 toward the tennis tournament for the shirts and other things, primarily for the shirts. It's mostly Lake Clark Shores residents who attend. There'll probably be up to 30 people attending. This is, I think, our 3rd or 4th annual. I can't remember. It might be our 4th.
I think it's
annual,
4th.
4th annual one. And I know you've participated in it before. You've participated in it.
I'd participate in it again if you weren't holding it on the barbecue.
Well, no, it's going to be the 25th of February.
Okay, well,
It's
still,
actually this
okay.
month. So that's the. ask.
25th?
25th, yes. Are you around?
Oh, I'm not going to be cleared yet. I can't play
What's
sports
the
yet.
time?
8 a.m.
Oh, okay, be gone. I'm having the 65th wedding anniversary for my mother and father on that.
Yeah, we know. That's why we can't use
Yes.
the pavilion.
Sorry, I didn't know.
You cut to it before us. Well, I'm late. as
65
always.
years is a long time.
That's awesome.
Ask my mom.
Dan, is there any issue from a budget perspective for this request?
We will work to find the money within the budget. I think it's important that the council, more than the money, authorize that the event be some type of town activity and not, so that we recognize that there's a benefit to the town residents.
That was my question to Charlie.
It's hosted by the
Well, is it going to be a town, is it going to be a town function?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. But let me say that in order for you to approve an expenditure, it has to be for a public purpose, not a private purpose. And generally, that's described as benefiting the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. So if it was determined that it was a purely private purpose, the expenditure would not be appropriate. If it's part of your recreational programs, like your fish camp and other camps where you have made it part of the recreational programs for the town, then it can serve a public purpose and be a town recreational event. And then the expenditure would be appropriate.
Because it looks as though with the David Adgard, he signs a provider agreement. Would something like that have to be implemented? If you're mirroring off of the, summer fish camp?
Not necessarily. I think it's a good idea, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be.
I don't know the extent of the involvement of the town. If it's going to be a town function, then the town's going to be in charge of it.
I don't know those details.
I'll fill you in on the details. The coach that has a contract with our town to use the courts is the person who sponsors it and organizes it. This would be the 4th year he's done it. He pays a fee to our town to use the courts for certain times. So for the last 3 times we've done it, first 2 times we did it was more of a town event because we had employees to help. Monies actually came in and some remained with the town. The last one was not as, the last one was not so much run by the town because we didn't have the resources at the time due to COVID. This time we can't really use the resources in the town because of the barbecue, but it is for a town benefit because we open it up to all town residents and it's advertised, and generally speaking, most of the persons who participate are town residents that sign up and come and play. They're people who regularly use the tennis courts, for the coach who provides lessons and things of that nature. So I see it, I don't see it as not being a town event. We call it the Lake Clark Shores Triples Tennis Tournament. It's at the Lake Clark Shores Tennis Club. No money has ever been made as a profit from it. All the monies that go from it go back to either tennis balls or t-shirts and, just back to the persons who participate. It's sort of, I believe whatever is received just covers the expenses of it. So, I mean, with that being said, that's my ask. If I don't get it, we don't get it, but we were asking the town to help us with that. The town's helped in the past.
So I presume you asked the town and the town put it to the council.
Yeah.
Does the town have a recommendation? Does the staff have a recommendation or the attorney?
Our recommendation has already been recognized by Councilman Rodriguez in that we don't have staff time to support him. So whatever the council would like to do is up to the council, but everyone understands that we don't have staff time to support. It's the wrong time of the year for us.
Any further discussion?
Why don't we make it a town event if you were having it, Dad? Same way with the kids fishing. The kids fishing tournament, though, they charge for that too.
Right, the kids fishing tournaments run the same way.
How much do you charge for that tournament?
Yeah, but it just covers the.
Minimal, cover the
Yeah,
cost?
yeah, it's covered cost. There's no
How
cash
much
price.
how much can shirts be?
Um,
Shirts that expensive, Dan, or
up to-
what do you need, a gross or less?
Yeah, we need like up to $500 worth of shirts. That's it. So I'd ask, I'll amend my motion to make it a town event without staff help and up to $500 toward the event for shirts.
Do we not have the loop around the lake this year?
We don't.
We don't.
No? So we're down one.
You want a second?
His motion has been made?
Yeah, he just made it.
Oh, I'll second it.
All right.
I think anything you can do to build community around here in the slight of things is a good thing.
It's also a healthy event.
If this is going to be a town event, the town runs it, but now they're telling us the staff don't run it.
Well, the town doesn't run the fishing tournament either.
Well, we
Yes,
participate.
We
do.
participate, but they don't run it.
You're talking about my tournament or
No,
the kids? Okay, well, the kids is a camp.
Is there a way to postpone the tournament so that staff can, that you get more involved
Well,
like
yeah,
we normally do in other events?
We had to postpone, we would have to postpone until late April.
Right.
Yeah, it's 2 months. I mean, then it's hot. Everybody kind of try to do it, and it's not, it's hot.
It's always hot, Val.
Yeah, but this morning was a lot nicer than the July morning. That's on. We don't really want the town to participate too much because we don't want to take, we have so few resources. We have volunteers that do this. They do everything. You know, we can call it a town event without the town's help because we're so short-staffed.
I'd like to see that event go forward. I don't see how the town is not going to get involved.
It's the town's court. I mean, the town has a contract with the coach who runs it to use the court for that purpose,
Is your motion not to exceed $500
Yeah,
or
not to
$500?
not to exceed.
And,
maybe
and
less.
all you want is just t-shirts,
That's it.
t-shirts.
Well, any further discussion on the motion before we vote? All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Vice Mayor,
Aye.
motion carries.
That was the only other comment I had. I just wanted to thank the town for recognizing my mother dying. They were very supportive when it happened. And you forget what a nice town you have and nice police officers and police chief and different people who contact you and reach out. And it really makes you feel like at home. So, you know, we really do live in a small town. We really need to appreciate where we live. And whenever someone's relative dies, I think we need to be very aware of it, be a part of it, and, you know, really have compassion for that person. And that's why I love living in Lake Park Shores. And I love seeing this many people here for the event tonight. And Mr. Spencer, I was thinking of you because you've been here, you know, since 1990. That's a long time, but someone's been here longer. And I just want to remind everybody, I'm working on the 65th anniversary. We'll probably have it ready by the 70th. But at the picnic, I will be going around with some volunteers to talk to people to get information in like a little iPad. So we will be gathering people who've been here forever and forever. And raise your hand if you've been here forever. 1973, yeah, that was when I was about 4 years old. That's amazing. So it's those types of things I'm going to do for sure at the picnic and hopefully this year get this thing done.
All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you, President Freehold.
I came across the 45th anniversary booklet that was put out for the 45th anniversary. So I don't know if you have that, but
No, I need that.
I'll get it to you for that.
Any help?
Well, we did the
And,
50th, Greg.
Ted, thank you very much for your service, sir, and all the police officers and all the utility, everybody here. Like I said, Chief, I think that's attributed to some of your connections and contacts that you have, that these folks are willing to do what they do. I was surprised to learn some of that stuff a while back that we knew that. So, and Chief Adams, I gotta give a couple of your guys kudos too. I have a few elderly residents that I look in on here, and one of them, I happen to be the emergency contact for when she pushes her life alert button, which she's been doing very frequently. She has dementia, and these guys were fantastic. I mean, they were just really good with her. I apologized and just said, she gets fidgeting with it. She doesn't know what she goes, I didn't push anything. But those guys were very professional, and it is appreciated. And they were here. I mean, because I get the phone call, and I was right at Keller and 17th, and they were here before I was. So
Happy to hear it.
thank you. Pass that
Thank-
along. I told them but I give them kudos. to
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
it's all good stuff.
Hopefully they can also.
I'm glad we inked in the kids fishing camp. That's a great event for the children here in Lake Clark Shores. Just for the record, Dan, are children outside of Lake Clark Shores eligible to fish at this camp also?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a number on the cap again this year?
He generally likes to cap it at 40 individuals. He's made an exception to carry a few more from time to time, depending on, I think, basically what the weather looks like.
Okay, I've already had a bunch of people ask me about it. And we had a discussion the other day about the annual Lake Clark Shores Fishing Tournament. And we're looking at something after the lake cleanup in April. So I'll get that finalized hopefully by the end of the week, and we'll get that on the calendar. Is there anything that I should know about for the pavilion that may be taken, or I can call the office staff tomorrow and find that out?
The pavilion books really fast. The first opening we could find was April 1st,
Pretty crowded.
but I didn't look beyond April 1st, so check it out.
All right, well, I'll get with you. We'll get a date and we'll figure it out from there. So I'll talk to these guys and we'll get a couple of dates going. Okay, all right, that's it.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Y'all should know that there's a House bill being considered by the Florida legislature that will increase the personal liability limits to municipalities from $200,000 to $2.5 million per person and $5 million per incident. What does that mean? Well, if you sue the city, town of Lake Clark Shores, you can only recover $200,000. That's the cap. So there's legislation in Tallahassee going on. They want to increase the cap to $2.5 million per person. What does that mean for us?
It's not good.
What is that?
Insurance costs will go up through the roof.
So it's House Bill 401. So reach out to your legislators and let them know your position.
It's called sovereign immunity.
And the bill's in committee this week, so if you're going to reach out, please reach out quickly.
Yes, you got a notice today.
Thank you very much.
Anything else, Mr. Vice Mayor?
No, congratulations to the police officers. Congratulations, Chief.
We'll
20
put it-
years as a chief, not a police officer.
It's on the Florida.
20 years as a
City's-
chief
City's website.
here.
Florida League.
How many years as a police officer?
I got about 50.
Oh, wow.
I remember you were recognized at your 20 years, many, many years ago.
Well, before I go out to pasture, I will tell you, when we get hurricanes or have threats, it's always good to have all those connections.
Yeah.
One year, we got our propane that was on the way, thanks to Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, was on the way to Palm Beach. And I happened to know the assistant chief, and I said, we need it. We're helping the sheriff's department. So Palm Beach got delayed a day, and we got our propane gas runner.
More important to Palm Beach.
That's when you take people out for lunch.
Yeah. All right.
La, 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 la. The barbecue dates, I'll tell you right now,
It's March,
March 27th.
March 26th is the town barbecue.
26th. It's nice to see you, Fran.
If you guys are interested in volunteering, we'll be doing a lot of cooking and needing a lot of volunteers on Friday and Saturday, as well as Sunday, the day of the actual barbecue. So feel free to come on over as early as you want on Friday, and I assure you, you will have plenty of work to do, and we would greatly appreciate it. March 24th is going to be the movie night, and we also have on February 11th, the Valentine's Day Sweetheart Food Truck event. And what's the start time for that? Is it 5:30, 6 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. There we go. All right, and our next council meeting, just so we all are aware, is going to be February 28th. So there's not going to be a March meeting because in March we got to go to Tallahassee for Palm Beach County Days, go up there, meet with our legislators to basically lobby on behalf of the town to get a lot of our appropriations and our asks that we're going to be making this year. And then the following week is going to be the town election. So there's not going to be a meeting in March. So the next meeting is February 28th, right here, Town Council. We're also going to have our CRA meeting at that time. Briefly, before we move on to the forum, I want to address sewers one more time. I should have mentioned it earlier. I've been hearing a lot of, we'll call it rumors and misinformation about this septic sewer conversion, all the way from what it's going to cost each resident to the fact that, you know, apparently we're having them installed on Pine Tree, to the fact that, you know, the allegation, if you will, that it's a done deal and they're coming to town. When I did the presentation about 20, 30 minutes ago, I took for granted that maybe not everybody was been at the last couple of meetings. So my apologies for that. The town has never, at least in the last, I don't think ever, voted up or down on going forward with sewer conversions. Okay. That means it's never been before the town council as an agenda item. Are we moving forward with the septic sewer conversion project or are we not? This town council, as it's made up of today, and since I've been on the council, has never had that question posed to it as an agenda item. All right. So as far as it being a done deal, it is not. Right. It's never been a done deal. Okay. The objective right now of the town, and the thing we've been doing for a while, is doing our due diligence and getting things ready for in the event that we have to make this conversion. So that's what we're continuing to do. All right. And a big thing that we're going to be focusing on 2023 is asking for that money. Once we have the money, if we have the money, put it that way, then that would be something now of a more serious discussion to have. And then we're going to have actual numbers and a lot more educated decision can be made. A lot more educational materials can be provided to all the residents because we'll have a lot more information at that time. So if the legislative session in 2023 happens and we don't have any millions of dollars coming in, there's no septic sewer conversion that's going to be taking place. That's been the action of the council over the last couple of months, I should say, as assured by the members of this board. So I just wanted to get that out and let you know that they're not being installed anywhere in a residential property in town here, you know, no single family homes. It's just not happening at this time. It's certainly something we continue to do our due diligence on though. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, motion carries. We just take a brief break and then we can start the candidate forum. Is Mr. Maples here? All right.
Need another one?
Yes, I think I have heard nothing.
Oh, I don't know if that's going to be up there. That's the order for the questions. It's on the dais, but I don't know if it's got moved around.
Laurel.
This way you don't have to look around for it.
I'm good. How are you? Hi, Christina.
Opening, I think, Charlie, I think the agenda, there's an agenda, or there was an agenda out there.
Good. Looking forward to retirement.
Did you get an agenda out
Trying to
front?
feed me all the time.
Oh, that I don't know.
No,
That
this-
part I
this is
don't know. I don't know if it's unopened and unclosed. I don't know. You can check with Charlie, who's going to be running the meeting.
He said he's staying. That's what he told me.
He wants me in the closet right next to his office.
Hey, John, how you doing? Good to see you.
All right, John.
Yes.
Last year, wasn't it like a half a million? I'll never.
I don't know. Right now, I don't know what it was.
Exactly. Let me take that back. I see it eventually changing because it's a little low, but not too low. They were talking about an inflationary factors, half a million. It makes a little bit of sense. 2.5 million.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Just, I think just anywhere up there, if you want to sit in the chairs that are not labeled, you know, where like Greg is at right now. I think that'll work. Let me double check.
It's, write it down. Okay, good. Saturday.
That would be more.
Before COVID, I used to play really, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think that's.
I would love to start something here like that, and get the community involved with them. Yeah. This would be happy, you know.
Yes, I do. Yes. Over here. Hey, Clem, how are you? Good. How are you doing?
Okay.
I have to go and it's gonna be a while. Probably be about 30 minutes, right? Okay. I might go sit where I have to leave. My daughter gets off work and I gotta go. Then it might, I might be, but I don't want to get up in the middle of it.
Go get a bottle of water. Do you want anything?
No.
Good idea. Yes, I'm definitely interested to see how this process.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the last one we have the big one.
Yeah.
Wow. What does this mean? First of all, you are amazing that you do all this. What about dictation or something? Like you can't record it and have it just.
We do record it, but this keeps me from having to listen to it again. I can't go through the meeting and then go through it twice. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad everything worked out.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. How are you doing?
Yes. They're wonderful. Wonderful.
All right.
Charlie.
Okay, they're always travel. Photos on Facebook, I'm always jealous. I didn't know.
Okay. So
I would have gone had I was here though. I would have loved to. They're fun people.
Yeah.
They're good people. On picture, not up north, right? In Jupiter? Yeah, somewhere up there, like all like beachy. Yeah. Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead now that, that's all right.
So I guess I would all go
we're going to introduce the two candidates for the Group 2 Town Council seat. They are Paul Shalhoub and Jonathan John Maples. I want to thank all of the residents on behalf of the town who are here. I personally believe that informed voters are much better than uninformed voters, and to be able to meet the candidates and to address questions to the candidates through me, I think is very important, so that you have some idea of who the candidates are. Now, I know in a town like Lake Clark Shores, most of you already know who the candidates are and where they stand on issues, but I still believe the candidates forum is very, very helpful in making intelligent decisions at the polls. The procedure tonight is going to be that each candidate will be given 5 minutes for opening remarks. After those 10 minutes are finished, we will break for 5 minutes. There will be no questions asked from the floor. You need to fill out a public comment card if you are here and submit them to who are we submitting those to? To
you.
To me. So after those 5 minutes, I will go through those questions, and then we will begin the question and answer procedure. We will alternate on who answers the question first, so that each candidate will have a chance to be first and second on answering questions. If you're online, you need to submit written questions via GoToWebinar. I will read the questions. As I said, no questions will be allowed from the floor, and each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to each written questions. Following the question and answer period, each candidate will then be given 5 minutes for closing remarks. So with that, I would ask the incumbent, Paul Shalhoub, to give his 5-minute opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for being here at this forum today. I really look forward to answering your questions and telling you a little bit about why I want to continue to serve Lake Clark Shores. I'm here today because I am not done giving back to the community that has given me so much over the last 36 years. I'm not done serving you, and I'm certainly not done working hard for Lake Clark Shores. We still have a lot more goals to achieve, despite all that I have achieved along with my council members over the last 6 years. When I ran in 2017, I made commitments to each of my neighbors during that campaign, and I followed through with them. I'm still committed to making our town even better than it is already, and I will follow through with those commitments. When I ran in 2017, I made a commitment to always be accessible to residents, to be open and available to talk to them about any issue, anytime, to listen to them and explore ways within the town to address their issue and concern. Even back then, before the election, I gathered all my notes after talking with the residents on multiple occasions, almost bi-weekly, and met with the chief and/or Dan Clark to let them know what the issues were that I was hearing from our residents. I wasn't even elected. That wasn't the point. The point was to let them know what the issues were so they could begin working on the solutions right then and there, regardless of whether or not I won. To this day, I still field phone calls and emails and text messages whenever they are received or sent, if you will, and I work for every resident in this town to make this the best place for them to live. I also made a commitment to be heavily involved within our town events, as well as within our county and state, in particular the Florida and Palm Beach County League of Cities. And each year I attend numerous meetings and learn how other municipalities deal with issues so that I can bring that knowledge back and work within our town to make our place better and better serve our residents. I've also had the honor of being selected by 2 different presidents for the Florida League of Cities to serve as the chair of the Finance, Taxation, and Personnel Committee. Town events. I prioritize town events. They're very important to me. Our residents, our sense of community is what makes Lake Clark Shores the gem of Palm Beach County. It is what sets us apart from every other municipality in this county. As most of you know, I've been heavily involved in the town barbecue, the annual tree lighting, lake cleanups, et cetera, long before I got on the council. But during my first term as mayor in 2021, we needed to bring back community events. I pushed for it. We had the support of our council, and we were able to bring back the holiday parade, the tree lighting, the first of many menorah lightings at the head of the lake. And in 2022, we were able to successfully bring back our town barbecue. That is what makes our town so special. All of us residents getting together and participating and sharing in these experiences. And in 2023, we now have a full slate of events with the food truck events starting this Saturday. And in 2018, I saw a need, if you will, for another event, an avenue for us to get together. And I pushed the town to work hard and let's have food trucks come into our town on a regular basis for our town residents to enjoy. And that went off with a great success. I also made commitments to improve safety within Lake Clark. And our residents wanted security cameras at all the main ingress and egress points to the town. And in a very short amount of time, we were able to do that with the work of our town council and our town staff. For years, we've had multiple cameras at all the major ingress and egress points to the town, as well as license plate readers to ensure better safety for our residents. We also have installed multiple upgraded flashing stop signs and speed signs as well to curb the traffic issues. I'm also very proud of the financial responsibly budgeting that we've accomplished over the last 6 years. Our town does so much with so little. I kid you not, we are the envy of many municipalities because they are shocked at how much we're able to do with such a small budget. We've been hit in my term with financial challenges through unfunded mandates, hurricanes, and COVID. Yet we always maintain the same level of services we were able to provide to our residents day in and day out. In 2018, we took it upon ourselves to research some additional vendors and reached a contract with ABM for our building maintenance services, as well as some others, that over the course of the next 15 years is estimated to save the town $1 million. I'm very fortunate to have built up great relationships with our local county officials and our state representatives, as well as my colleagues on the council. Going up to Tallahassee year after year, making phone calls and communicating with them on a regular basis about our needs has truly helped, and it resulted in a record year for 2022. I look forward to telling you more about my goals for 2023 and 2024, and look forward to your vote on March 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maples? John, if I may?
Yeah, John's perfect. Yeah.
You have 5 minutes for your opening comments.
Thank you, Mr. Shack. So first I want to say thank you. I was in Denver with a bunch of guys I played basketball with from college, and we were doing a men's retreat. It's get better in your marriage, better leader, better community guy. So thank you for switching this town council forum piece to the last minutes. I know a lot of you hadn't planned on staying here this late, so I really appreciate you doing that. So those viewing online, thank you, town council. Everybody, thank you. I really appreciate that. So first and foremost, my name is John. I live at 6401 Travis Road on the north side of Lake Clark Shores. Many of you probably never been over there, but it's over there, jump across Forest Hill, and we're over there somewhere. But ultimately, I've lived in Palm Beach County 22 plus years. Called Florida my home. I've lived in Lake Clark Shores 6 years. And I remember really speaking about the town barbecue. We had just bought our house. My wife's here somewhere. And I hadn't even been in my house 2 months. And my dad was there helping me kind of move some things around the house, fix some things. And we volunteered at the town barbecue. I had lived here 2 months in the town. So being a part of this community was already just kind of built in me naturally. My dad said, yeah, son, let's go help. We washed dishes and seasoned some turkey, some chicken. That's what we did for the town my first 2 months living here. But ultimately, community involvement is what drives my professional life and my personal life. And that's what makes it an exciting time to live in Lake Clark Shores. I know we have projects like the Edgewater Annexation, Community Redevelopment Agency projects. We got the new Pine Tree Bridge happening. You know, Lake Clark Shores continues to expand tremendously and improve. And all of these projects are very important for the growth and sustainability of our town. But I also think our town has even greater potential. And, you know, one of those very important, I think, components of our town that gets overlooked is the residents, is all of us. And I've ran for county commission. 2 years ago, I ran for county commission here in Palm Beach County. And I remember going to the board meetings and I get up and I would speak to our current elected officials of the county commission. I felt like I was talking to them. They were looking at me, but it was going in one ear and out the other. They weren't listening. I didn't feel like I had a voice. Didn't feel like I was being heard. And that impacted me. And so in this town, I really want us to feel like, hey man, we're residents, we're neighbors, we have a voice. They're listening up there. They're trying to impact our community for the better. So that's part of that deal there for us. My mission here is really to secure, utilize resources responsibly, to strengthen this town and community. And my hope is that our kids will want to raise their families in this very town. As an entrepreneur of a successful financial planning firm, my experience has taught me to connect with my clients while remaining committed to a plan, a strategy. And really, my vision is simple. 4 points is we're going to reconnect this town together, bring the North and the South back together. And give you an example of that, the Pine Tree Bridge is happening. Why don't we use some of the CRA money and allow golf carts to pass through right there at Pine Tree Bridge? We're updating that bridge anyway. There's an idea to bring the North back. Drive more signage over there on the north side. Let them know what's happening tonight on nights like tonight. Being a finance guy for the last 14 years, one of the things that's extraordinarily important to me is budgeting and having fiduciary responsibility to do that. I think it's important that we make sure our budget, our money is being spent wisely. And so I'm going to be focusing on reserves. Where do we have any reserves? Were we able to get any reserves put away for this year? Or how are we spending these dollars? We got a lot of big projects coming up. Want to make sure that we're doing it physically responsibly. So that's part of the nature of what I do for a living. The other thing is collaboration. I'd like us to be able to kind of, as a neighborhood, safety is important to all of us, but also our men and women who serve us. Let's bring them into this community. Let's be neighbors. Let's figure out how we connect with them, get to know them. Opportunities for all of us to feel safer in this community. No matter, if you're visiting or you're a long-term resident who've been here 50 years, bring that connection, that community back together. Lastly, as I think about, this meeting tonight, I believe that, having a financial background and having skills in that realm is going to add value to this town. And, my degree is in computers back home. So when I went to school at Palm Beach Atlantic, my degree is in computers. So ultimately, I think this town has room to go in that capacity from a technology standpoint. And some things that we're going to be able to do from a permitting, variation, code violation. There's some ideas that I have there around that to be able to make that process simpler by using technology and all of us to be able to access that data readily available to all of us. So lastly, I do want to say I'm really excited to be here. I'm happy that all of you chose to spend the night with us and looking forward to getting to know each one of you better. Thank you.
Thank both of you. We will now take a 5-minute break. And you saw how fast 5 minutes goes. So please fill out your questions, submit them to me, and in 5 minutes, we'll start the question and answers. is because some of the questions are similar and I'd like to keep them together. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
The first question, Paul Shalhoub will go first and John Maples will go second. And on the second question, we'll reverse that order and continue to use that process of every other question going to the other candidate for answering, so that you all have an opportunity to be first and second in answering it. So, Paul, the first question is, how do you plan to move the Blue Way project trail forward? And part of that is, how important is the Blue Way Trail project to your campaign?
Thank you. The Blue Way Trail project is incredibly important to my campaign. I campaigned on it back in 2017. I've been advocating it on behalf of it ever since. In fact, I was actually a part of the committee, the Blue Way Coalition Committee, before I got elected. That is very important in the following ways. It's not an easy project to get done. So we have exhausted a number of avenues, the most recent of which was we selected members of our community, the stakeholders, and they formed the Blue Way Trail, Inc. The sole mission of that 501c3 company was to obtain some funding and continue to push the Blue Way Trail initiative. It was able to successfully get designated by the state, now the Chain of Lakes, the Blue Way Trail. That was very important. Now we have an official state designation. Our next step for 2023 is going to be meeting with the county commission and our representatives there in order to see if the county can take it over. We have been in discussions with the county over the last couple of years to get this done. We've been in discussions with Lake Worth. Nobody wants to pay for it. This year might be our best year to have the county tackle that project. And the best thing about the project is it doesn't have to be tackled all at once. There are various phases. We have the fishing piers, we have the portage, and we have the boat lift. So as long as they're moving portions of it forward, it's moving forward as a project on a whole. Thanks to the efforts of our council, all the way from 2017 to the present, we have been able to keep that momentum going. The project has continued to move forward solely because of the efforts of this council and the diligence that we have provided to that initiative. So it's very important to me. It's one of my objectives for 2023 and 2024, and it will be an objective of mine until it is completed, as long as I'm on this council. Thank you.
Mr. Shett, can you repeat the question?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
How important is the Blue Way Trail project to your campaign, and how do you plan to move the Blue Way Trail project forward?
Yeah. Great. Again, my name is John Maples, and the Blue Way Trail is very, very important. Funny story about that. When I bought my house about 6 years ago, Wally Hickman was selling me the house, and he was selling me on the fact that this Blue Way Trail was going to be done in like a year or two. And then that turned into 3, and that turned into 6. And here we are together still talking about the Blue Way Trail. Why I think it's very, very important. It'd be great to be able to, man, jump out from our lakes, jump in the ocean, family time, boating would be amazing. My campaign is not hinged upon the Blue Way Trail getting approved. My singular focus here today is to make sure that, number 1, the residents have a voice by voting on major issues like sewers. Number 2, making sure from a technology standpoint, we do some things that advance this town drastically. Number 3, lastly, and just right up there with number 1, is budgeting. So while I think that is very, very important, my focus is not on getting the Blue Way Trail approved, because there's a lot of barriers to getting that done with a lot of other people involved. That's why we're trying to hand it off to somebody else now. while it's important and while we will work to make sure that goes through, but that's just not my focus on this campaign, not today. My focus is making sure you have a vote and a voice and making sure our budgets are sound. Sound. I'm trying to talk into the mic.
Okay, second question. This deals with the septic to sewer, and I think we can address a couple of these together simultaneously. So, Mr. Maples, you'll go first. Will you allow residents a vote on the septic to sewer conversion? And the second question, which is similar, if over 760 residents have signed a petition to vote on septic to sewer, why would an elected officer not agree to a vote? So the question is, will the residents of the town be allowed to vote on the septic to sewer issue, or will this matter be addressed by the town council? What are your views concerning that matter?
Yeah, thank you. Again, John Maples. As I just stated, one of my primary focuses of being here is to make sure all of us as residents get an opportunity to have a voice related to the septic to sewer. And I think first and foremost, that starts with making sure we know up front, hey, great town, you're doing your due diligence, but we want to make sure the final vote lands with us. We have the final say so on that deal. As residents of this town, I am a resident of this town. I believe firmly that even if it's all residents come together and say, hey, we want to move forward, but that's the voice of the town. That's the voice of each resident that voted, that's in this room or that's watching online. So I want to make sure first and foremost, the reason why I'm here is to make sure I'm advocating for you and make sure you have a voice. And simply put, the residents need a vote on the septic to sewer in the discussion. That's my stance on that.
Paul Shahoob, will you allow residents a vote on the septic to sewer conversion?
Wasn't there a first part of that question?
That if over 700 residents have signed a petition to vote on septic to sewer, why would an elected official not agree to the vote?
Sure. So let's start with the first step. What is the vote on? What's the basis for a vote? Am I supposed to hypothesize on the variety of ways upon which there could be a vote or a reason to vote on septic sewer? If that's the answer to the question, well, I don't have enough time. There are so many different reasons why the town might eventually consider a septic sewer conversion. I can't tell you which different way is going to be. I only have a minute and 30 seconds left. The decision has never been put before the council to convert septic to sewer. We don't have all the data. How were those, the fact that a petition was signed, there's not even a council action item for that petition to relate to. We're talking what, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? I don't know. The circumstances that could potentially lead to a vote remain undetermined, in my opinion. As far as I'm concerned, until the town has that decision to make, are we or are we not going to proceed with this type of a conversion project at that time, at that time alone, is when we'll have enough information. The residents will then be advised, and then we can make a decision if there needs to be a vote. If the state tells us we have to convert, if it is a true mandate, how can we do it? I've actually called the supervisor of election office and asked these questions. I've actually inquired, how can we make this happen when you have 702 homes and you have over 1,800 homes or however many we have here that need to vote on this, over 3,000 residents? How is everyone supposed to vote on what happens to those 702 homes? I called the supervisor of election office and asked these questions. Why? Because they're important. It's not simple, well, we need to vote. How? How do you get there, right? When? What is the circumstances? So my response is very simple. I don't know, because we don't have the information yet and we're not there yet. That's putting the cart way before the horse, in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Maples, the same question.
No, we completed that.
Oh, I completed. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do timing, and these guys are doing great helping me. Thank you. Okay, so this one goes to Paul Shalhoub first. And there are three questions here that I'm going to combine. What experience do you have in getting money for Lake Clark Shores from county and state government? Do you have any alternative ideas on how we can implement the sewer project without going into the residents' pockets? And finally, how will we increase grants or other public funds?
Thank you. So we have been very successful over the years, despite, you ask a lot, and we ask every year for a lot of money. So we're not going to get every year, but we have been very successful. We recently obtained $600,000 for the Pine Tree Bridge replacement through appropriations. That's going to significantly help offset the cost by close to 50%. We obtained in 2022 $130,000 for the pickleball courts to go on the north side in the community park, so that we can upgrade our park area. We actually recently received $250,000 for biomass removal from the legislature. That was recently clawed back, though, unfortunately, due to the damage to Hurricane Ian and the need to divert funds over there. But we were successful in obtaining it. And a few years ago, we received over $300,000 to put towards our septic sewer survey, so we could continue to do our due diligence. That is just a number of ways upon which we have been very successful in getting money through the county and through grants in the federal and state government. We recently heard we got about $750,000 for a massive infrastructure project from the county that Mr. Clark just came back from that meeting. That was through a lot of due diligence and hard work and negotiating. And these things that were accomplished because of the relationships that myself and my fellow councilmen have developed over the years. It's easy to walk up there and ask for something. It is difficult to get something. And when I picked up the phone and I called our state representative and I said, we need $3.7 million, he's sitting there talking to me about it. He asked me why. I said, because we need funding. This type of a project, septic to sewer, cannot occur without it. We have a grant writer who's coming in with our new town manager, Joe Lobello, and their focus is going to be turning over every single stone so we can find funding for a variety of projects, not just water quality and septic to sewer conversion. But those are the variety of ways upon which we're going to continue to work day in and day out to better our community through grants and federal and state funding. Thank you.
Mr. Maples, what experience do you have in getting money for Lake Clark Shores from county and state government? And do you have any alternate ideas on how we can implement the sewer project without going into the residents' pockets? And how will we increase grants or other public funds?
Fantastic. So what experience do I have getting money for the town? I've never tried to get money or written a grant for the town itself specifically, but I have served on the board of organizations like Families First as their chair. And we write grants as nonprofits to raise money from our current elected officials by exhibiting first fiduciary responsibility with the funds and also the quality of services being provided to folks in our community. The other way we talk about relationships, the current slate of county commissioners, I have very good relationships with all of them. I served with a lot of them in some different capacities in the community, but also I serve on the board as leadership Palm Beach County. And so a lot of those folks are part of that organization, and I have access to all of them to have an open dialogue conversation about the needs of this town. Alternate ideas that I've had for the sewer to septic conversion is considering muni bonds. Right now, rates for muni bonds, we can do a revenue bond. It's about 3.34% current rates. I know we've got a state revolving fund at 1% for 20 years, but it won't cost the residents. It'd basically be the town stepping up on behalf of the residents and us utilizing that muni bond to protect the residents for getting liens on their houses or different things like that. So we'd have to weigh out the 1% versus the 3%, but ultimately it's another tool that we can bring to the table to get funding for the sewer to septic conversion if that's the direction the town decides to go in from a vote. Lastly, look, if we continue to go in the direction the town's gone on for the last 7 years, we'll get the same thing we've always gotten, okay? I've got relationships with folks, and I think also, maybe look, let's consider interviewing more firms for lobbying for the town. We haven't had any success over the last 7 years. It doesn't hurt us to go out and interview other candidates to get an opportunity to get their relationships and leverage them to raise some money for the town. Why aren't we doing that? Why are we sticking with the status quo? Guys, there's opportunity for this town to be better. And now is the opportunity.
Okay, Mr. Maples, the next question goes to you first. How do you intend on ensuring the voices of the residents are heard and the issues they present to the town are addressed? And another resident said, what is your game plan for improving communications?
Yeah, good question. So first and foremost, I'd like us to have our website be the hub of information, and meaning that if you got a permitting issue, you just move in, you're trying to permit some stuff, you don't have to call the town every 5 minutes. You can just jump on and log into the website right there, see where your permit is, see what code violations are at. So what happens is in the neighborhood walking around, someone just bought a house, they're installing a fence, they say, hey, it's on my property. Like, we had a database with some information. We can kind of see the history of how this got approved, variance, permitting, basically a database that houses all this information so neighbors can readily access this information, which I think will improve the experience that we have when we're trying to get a permit or we're trying to get something through the town to get done, but also would allow you to have the information readily available to you, which it makes things just so much easier. If we could do everything that we've been doing or accustomed to doing from our phones, we could access the town information and be able to see where we're at in the process for that. So that's one way I hope to implement a strategy to make the town a little bit better from a planning and technology standpoint regarding some of the issues with permitting and code violations.
Mr. Shalhoub, how do you intend on ensuring the voices of residents are heard and the issues they present to the town are addressed? What is your game plan for improving communications?
Thank you. Let me start by saying this. My work ethic, in my opinion, and I think many others would agree, is second to none. My duty to work on your behalf whenever I can is ever present. When I get a phone call, I answer it. Whether I'm in trial or in middle of my work day, whether I'm on vacation overseas, if I have a signal and you call me, I answer. And if I don't answer, I call you back. I bring every issue to the town's attention. We either discuss it up here on the dais or the town staff works on it. That has been the history of my work ethic from before I got elected all the way through to the present. And it's through that work ethic that I became educated on what was going on, how the town knew about issues before I was even elected. Online permitting, guess what? It goes live next month, right? I don't know why I'm the only one on the dais that knew that. I'm sure it was brought to attention. It was brought to my attention. I knew it was happening. Code violations online. We revamped our website. We revamped all of this equipment in here so that we could better communicate with the residents and they could better participate in the meetings. When we saw the spike in attendance due to online, when we went to due to COVID, everybody up here said, let's make sure we get the best cameras so that everybody can come in here, whether live or virtual, and participate. Participation was key. Whenever we had a large room like this, I welcome everybody back. I want to hear from everybody. I constantly have given out my cell phone and email address to every resident I can whenever I can, because I want to hear from you. Because when you speak to me, your issues are heard. It might not always result in the outcome that you want, but your issues are heard, they're worked on. I respect every single one of you, and your opinions matter to me, and they matter to our town council. Thank you.
Next question, and this is a two-part question. One is more specific than the other. The more general question is, what do you feel is the most pressing issue to address concerning the town? And the second is, what is the most important capital project excluding the sewer? So what is the most pressing issue to address concerning the town? And what is the most important capital project excluding sewers? And that's for you, Mr. Shalhoub.
So it's two parts, as if they're not related?
They are related. One is, what is the most pressing issue for the town to address? And what is the most important capital project? I thought we could combine both of those together. If you'd rather do them separate, we can.
No, that's fine. The most pressing issue for our town is funds. We need to upgrade our infrastructure in multiple ways, from our pipes to our water lines, to our roads, to the septic sewer conversion, to our water quality. That is all infrastructure. All right. We have around a $3.6 or so million budget a year. Sometimes it goes up a little bit, it goes down a little bit. That's not enough money. We need grants and we need funding from state, from DEP, from literally anywhere we can get it to upgrade our infrastructure. All right. We have been able to defer maintenance for as long as we can, but the future for us is upgrading our infrastructure. And my goal and the most pressing issue is obtaining funds, whether that's septic to sewer or upgrading our utilities around town. They all fit in the same bucket, infrastructure. And we are in dire need of additional funds and grant monies to make that happen, because these things cost millions of dollars. And the fact of the matter is, we can't tax everybody to get those millions of dollars. So grant funding is one of the most important issues for our town. The one that's kind of like 1A is seeing through this annexation of the Edgewater Park area. For decades, there has been an inequity in them receiving our services while our tax dollars pay for it. It was a priority of mine many years ago. It's still a priority now, and we are so close. And the additional revenue that will be generated for that will finally put an end to the inequities that have existed over there for decades. They get our services, they have access to all of our amenities, they're right there. Yeah, it's time for that to finally come to fruition. And that's going to be one of the pressing issues that faces us in 2022, 2023. Also, our CRA. We have been very successful in upgrading our CRA over the last 6 years rather. That is imperative to our future growth here, bringing in development and increasing property values at the same time. Thank you.
Mr. Maples, what do you feel is the most pressing issue to address concerning the town? And what is the most important capital project excluding sewers?
Yeah, thank you. So excluding the sewers, I think first and foremost, we need to get our budget. Many of us have our own families, and first thing you do is budget before you start spending to figure out if you got any money to spend. So we're gonna have to do some budgeting. The next thing we're gonna have to do is go to our legislators. And again, those relationships are critical that I've developed over the years. And I think part of that is making sure we interview to make sure we got the proper people representing us in Tallahassee. I think, going out and having some other firms come in and take a look at what we've done and what we're trying to do, have them come in and add their expertise. I think that's going to be an important part of what we're trying to do. So first and foremost is budget. Once we figure out that, and then I'd love to see some of these projects like the Pine Tree Bridge that's been, I guess, on the docket to be completed or started. I'd love to see that done. And so just making sure the other projects that we've already got money and funding for, make sure they get started and completed. They're on the list. I'd love to see them get completed. And so part of that agenda for me to seeing those things through that have been started, that haven't been finished.
Okay, Mr. Maples, next question. Do you support term limits for council members?
Great question. Yes. I think everybody, you bring value, you serve, and then you let the next guy come in and he serves, he brings value. That's how we have fresh perspective, fresh ideas. That's how we're able to move forward. You gotta have, really, you lose touch with the people. You lose touch with your community. If I'm 90 years old and I'm still serving, I think someone younger could come up here and maybe add some value and have a little more spunk and run around town and do some things. We need to have term limits. I would be an advocate for that all day long. Because I think that's important. And then I really think we have more representation in the town for different people having an opportunity to sit up here and make impact and a positive impact. And so, yes, I'm absolutely for term limits.
Mr. Shalhoub, do you support term limits for council members?
So I'm going to first just address something. Look, our budget is a really tight and great budget. We get audited every year by the OIG, and there's no issues with our budget. Of the two people on the dais, there's only one of us that was present at every single budget hearing that the town has had over the last 6 years. There's only one of us that ever spoke about the budget, read the budget for the last 6 years, educated themselves on the budget. Our budget is not the problem. If we had more funds, that'd be great, but that's not due to the budget. So I want to just make sure everybody knows that. The Pine Tree Bridge, that is slated to start this year finally, and it will. All right. So that's why I didn't talk about that and what it lies ahead. As far as term limits, I believe in term limits in certain situations. As it relates to our town, I have seen some of the best service from people who have not been limited by a term limit. We have struggled to get our code board fully filled, our zoning board fully filled, our Parks and Recreation Committee fully filled. Every year, it is a struggle because we're such a small community to find people who are truly dedicated, who are willing to make sacrifice after sacrifice for the good of our town and our residents. Those people, unfortunately, just don't grow on trees. The person I replaced, he was here 28 years. He did a great job. I saw, though, leading up to it, things needed to be improved for that council seat. And that's why I ran. I knew that I could be more involved. I knew I could be more active. I knew I could bring ideas and support the growth of our town, and I have been very successful in doing so. And it's not easy. I sacrifice family time constantly. I sacrifice money by not being able to work. I sacrifice a lot of free time. I'm busier than I know what to do with, but in a good way. I love it. I thrive on it. I enjoy it. So if any of you or anyone wants to run for the council and get active, I encourage it. I encourage Mr. Maples here to get involved on our zoning board. I encourage Tim to apply a couple of times or once to be on our council, and he chose to run for county commission. Term limits are not an issue in Lake Clark Shores. Sorry for going over.
Next question, Mr. Shalhoub. Since you've been a resident of the town of Lake Clark Shores, how many council meetings have you attended, and have you been on any town committees?
Since being on the council?
Since you've been a resident of the town.
Sure. So I've been here since '86. I was 5. I got involved with the town at the age of 10. I participated in the barbecue committee in 1992. So I was about 11 years old. I've been serving on that ever since. When I left and went to college, worked here for 4.5 years, still was on the barbecue committee, left for law school, came back. That's when I bought my first house in 2011. Shortly after that, I joined the Code Enforcement Board, where I served for 5 years. During that time, I also co-served as the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee for I think 1 or 2 years. That allowed us to put upgrades on the community park on the north side of Lake Clark Shores. Once I got elected, I had to give up all those other positions and focus solely on being a council member. I've dedicated 36 years of service to this town, and I love every single one of those years. I'm not done. I'm only getting better, and I've truly appreciated all the support that my neighbors and residents have provided to me over all of those years on a consistent basis.
Mr. Maples, since you've been a resident of the town of Lake Clark Shores, how many council meetings have you attended, and have you been on any town committees?
Oh, I apologize. Every council meeting since a councilman.
Yeah, thank you. So I currently serve as the chair for the Zoning and Adjustment Board. And when you need a variance, you come see the board and we say, yeah, and then that's where I serve at. So I don't get a lot of fanfare. Nobody shows up to those meetings except for the person asking for the variance. I've done that for 3 years. Now, I've only lived in Lake Clark Shores for 6, so that means half the time I was serving. And when an opportunity came before the council, there's a seat open, who wants to run? I stepped up and ran for it because my family has taught me that you have a responsibility. And when you see something where you can help, you step up and you do it. Now, as far as council meetings that I've been to, I would say over the last 6 years, I've probably been to 15 of them, either online or in person. Okay. But does that make me any less informed? No. As a matter of fact, as I was speaking about the budget itself, I have it in front of me, and part of my deal is finance, so I look at it. And, you know, one of the things that I noted here was zero surpluses, zero money going into surplus or savings for 2023. I mean, $0 can go to savings in a $4.9 million budget. So my deal is to make sure that, hey, we look into that and find out what's happening here and get some transparency, get a better picture of what we got going from a budget standpoint. So I have served this community. And as I said, you know, moved in a couple of months into my house. My dad and I went out and served at the town barbecue. We've been here 2 months. So ultimately, serving and having the time and making the time to do it is very, very important to me. And it's why I'm running to represent each resident of this town.
Next question, Mr. Maples. If you were made aware of a police officer targeting residents, how would you handle it?
Yeah. First, I think it's incredibly important. Part of what that collaboration do, one of my points was allowing residents first to get to know our police department and each person that serves us. And also, I think, I know they mentioned Chief's been around for a very long time. I think, you know, coming to him and saying, hey, Chief, here's what is happening, and we'd like you to be able to look into this. And if that's not getting done, go to the town manager. Hey, here's what's happening. If that's not getting done, go to the council. Hey, council guys, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what's happening in residents. My hope is that through those three different stops of checks and balances, that something will be done to be able to stop the targeting and be able to make aware of record of that happening to the resident. You know, targeting, you know, it could be very, 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 very scary. Very scary. You know, there's some things going on in our world, big picture. And it was a scary time for me and my family. I remember my daughter crying and said, Daddy, I don't want you to get hurt. I said, honey, I'm going to be fine. And don't worry about it. But I think it starts with having a relationship with the people who are responsible for protecting us. And we got to do our part to have a relationship with them as well.
Mr. Shalhoub, if you were made aware of a police officer targeting residents, how would you handle it?
Well, the first thing to do would be notify the town manager and notify the chief and have a meeting with them and find out what's going on. Get any documents related to that incident and make sure, again, that the chief and the town manager are aware. They are the bosses of the police department, right? We set policy up here. It's important to make sure that we know where our role is. The way the police treat our residents is very important to me. We have long advocated up here that we need to continue to be the community policing town that we are known to be. No one should be targeted for any reason whatsoever, right? So if that is happening and there's a complaint made, we make sure that it goes to the proper authorities within the town and that it is handled. And then as far as what happens thereafter, that would then potentially be governed by the collective bargaining agreement with the police and the town. But as far as addressing it immediately, there would be no delay on my part if made aware of it. And I would certainly look into it with the chief and with Mr. Clark. Even though I don't have a say in it as a councilman, it's important to me that our residents are properly treated at all times and that any discrepancies are addressed. I've been doing that with the chief when the police officers go and respond to an issue and a complaint is relayed to me about how that resident was treated by the police officer. I address it immediately with the chief. There is no delay. I pick up the phone and I call him, or I call Dan. If it's too late at night, I wait. Next morning, I call and go, what's going on? Talk to me. This shouldn't be happening. And the issue is addressed. That's how I would handle it.
Next question, Mr. Shalhoub, and I apologize, this may relate to one of the first questions we asked regarding the Blue Way Trails boat lift project. What knowledge do you have for the C-51 canal? What will you do for this project? And I'm assuming that the question is related to the boat lift project on the C-51 canal at the spillway.
Right. So one thing I wanted to mention earlier before I tackle that is, why is there no surplus this year? Look, we have been hit with multiple unfunded mandates that the town had to tackle and pay for themselves. All right. Some of that's upgrades to the website to make them ADA compliant. That was a significant cost. The online permitting per statute that we had to undergo, that took a lot of money. We lost almost $400,000 due to COVID. That's a significant amount of money for a town our size. So don't be misled. The issue with our budget, again, is not the budget, right? We lost dollars and had to spend dollars through no control of our own, through the pandemic and the actions by the state legislatures. As to the C-51 Canal Boat Lift Project, we actually have a meeting in a couple of weeks, not even, with our mayors and managers for District 3 to meet with Commissioner Barnett, where I plan to discuss with him ways upon which we can get involved within the county or further get his support for our initiative for the Blue Wade Trail. I call it our initiative, but it's really a multi-city initiative, and we want it to be a part of the county. The same goes for discussions that I continue to have for the last number of years with our town administrator and county administrator and deputy administrator. And I've also been in communication with other county commissioners. And with regard to what I said earlier, the same thing applies. It's a priority for me, and it always will be, because I think it's important for our residents. I think it's important for the county. So many are going to benefit financially when the Blue Wade Trail is completed and we have a connection of the Channel Lakes. It will see a boom of millions of dollars in revenue for so many, and it will benefit us certainly here in Lake Clark Shores.
Mr. Maples, what knowledge do you have for the C-51 canal? What will you do for this project? And I think that's focused primarily on the boat lift at the spillway.
Yeah, thank you. I think what's most important, and there's a lot of bureaucracy around the boat lift. We really want it. I really want it. I think that would be amazing. Property values would go through the roof. It would be just amazing to be able to get on the boat with my family and enjoy a day out there on the beach. But what I do know is that there's a lot of bureaucracy around that. So it's like, hey, who's going to pay for this? Nobody wants to pay for it. Who's going to get the millions and millions of dollars? I'll take those. So it's a matter of trying to figure out some balance between who's getting what and who has access to what and who's liable for what if something happens at the boat lift. I am a big, big fan of it. I think that, you know, having a lot of the meetings and the committee that was set up for the C-51 canal, look, all that's important, but do I think realistically, is there a timeline on this? I mean, that's what I would want to know. Is there a timeline on us getting this thing done? And let's aim for a timeline. Let's set a date and really let's go for it, instead of it being like every year goes by and the C-51. Can we get some hard dates on when we're going to knock this thing out? Can we really, I mean, because you have to bring in a lot of other municipal, Lake Worth, West Palm, you know, a lot of people have to come into this thing and approve it and stamp off on it. And it's just not as easy as it may sound. While it would be wonderful, it's just not easy. It's a lot of red tape. So hopefully bringing all those people to the table, having some relationships, keeping the dialogue going. I do have relationships with our elected officials down in the county. And so, you know, open to having that conversation with Chairman Barnett, Commissioner Barnett. And so ultimately, you know, I think obviously it has legs and it would be great for our community, but can we get past that red tape? And that would be conversation that we have to have. And I would love to have a date set to be able to say, hey, let's execute this, or let's try to get it done by this date and bring all the towns and cities to the table that can get it done.
Next question, Mr. Maples. What is one issue you currently hear about from residents in the town, and what course of action would you take to correct it? What are the issues you're hearing from the residents in the town, and what would you take to correct the issue that the residents are addressing?
Yeah. So going out door knocking, meeting our residents and getting some time spending with each resident. A lot of them, they share their stories of their experience when they move into Lake Clark Shores. And, you know, sometimes it's, hey, John, I tore down this house and I'm building a new one. I want to put up some collusia or some different plants, but there's a fence on my property or there's a shed there. And guys, he's zoning, he's supposed to tear it down and he's got a violation. So if we could have basically, you know, Paul mentioned that we've got a database going live with variance and this and that. What I want to do is combine them and essentially have all that information in one place for our town. And so ultimately you can say, okay, hey, look, this guy just got a code violation for the red door. Hopefully the town's going to take care of it, but at least you know where we're at in that process. Hey, this fence, how did this fence get there? Do we have a variance for this? It's in the setbacks. What do we have for that? So having that information in one general place and be able to have some basic laws that are around property ownership and different things like that. When residents get into a civil dispute, making sure our PD has all that information as well. So when they respond, they can say, hey, here's what is on file. Here's what we have. And it'll make their job a lot easier as well and probably settle a dispute amongst residents. So really it's bringing that technology piece all together, because I keep hearing over and over people dealing with code violations, permitting, and when they move and buy their beautiful home, they want to do some different things, but there's a shed there or there's some issue with a fence or something like that. So basically having that information centralized through our webpage would be the best bet for that.
Thank you. Mr. Shahoob, what is one issue you currently hear about from residents in the town, and what course of action would you take to correct it?
So one of the big issues that seems to be pretty consistent, and I agree, I've always agreed, is road safety. So whether it's by the speed bump or speed table on Westlake Drive, whether it's on Pine Tree, whether it's by a stop sign, I hear consistently that people go, well, these people are speeding. And they appreciate the flashing stop signs. They know that the speed signs do some help because it shows it, and I witness it. But the question is, well, what more could be done? So in discussing these issues with the residents, what I want to propose for this coming year is we bring a traffic engineer in, a consultant, to do an evaluation of our roadway and provide us with some best practices on what we need to do to curb any road safety issues. So they would come in and evaluate and go, okay, you need a stop sign here, you need a speed table here, position this many feet away from here and such and so forth. That way we have someone who's an expert in the field come in and say, all right, this is what you need. They might come in and say, well, you need additional lights over here because of this road issue. So having an expert come in and address these issues and give us advice that we can follow and then put into action, I think would be a great thing for us to look into doing. Not only looking, we will do it. I've already had this discussion with our town manager and our incoming town manager. I also want to work on some additional grant funding for our police department. If we receive additional dollars, that allows us to either, one, have them spend additional overtime, or two, put money elsewhere so that we can pay them overtime, so that we have more police on the roads looking out for walker safety, biker safety, golf cart safety, speeders, etc. Increasing safety in that regard, I think, would be great. Our police are amongst the lowest paid in the county. That is part of the reason why we have a trouble retaining them. If we can get grant funding in so that we can allow them access to overtime funds and things of that nature, that might be a pretty darn good incentive for them to stay here while upgrading the safety of our town.
Okay, Mr. Shahoob, this question is for you. It may be a bit speculative, but let me read it. I live in what I think is a cancer cluster, 6 people in 2 blocks at least. What would be a step to help stop what might be causing this?
I don't know. So there's 6 people in 2 blocks that have cancer, and that could be a cancer cluster.
That's why I said it might be a bit speculative.
Well, the first thing I would do is, if that is an issue, get with me after tonight's meeting. Let's talk about it so I can get some specifics, and then we can discuss it with the health department and see if there's a way for the health department to do some investigation, I think that would be the proper course of action in that regard.
Mr. Maples, I live in what I think is a cancer cluster, 6 people in 2 blocks at least. What would be a step to help stop what might be causing this?
Well, safety is paramount. And if you feel like you're in a cluster where there's potential cancer, my recommendation would be to move. I know that sounds bad, but I'm not a doctor and I don't know much about that, but my recommendation simply would be to help move. And if you needed help with that, maybe we could help you, get you with the right people to find you a space. But yeah, I think moving is probably going to be the best place so you feel safe and you feel like you're not in a cancer cluster. Would be my recommendation, would be to just relocate to a different place.
And this is the last question. Mr. Maples, what do you think you will bring to the town council that is currently missing?
So first and foremost, thank you guys again for coming and presenting your questions, each of you. I believe that this is a great opportunity, and great part of the process is having dialogue, open dialogue and questions. So what I do think is missing is a fresh voice, a new perspective. Adding my financial experience to our current town council positions me to advocate for each of you. As you come forward with your issues, it allows me an opportunity to speak on your behalf. You know, I want to take a deep dive into our budget. We've heard a little bit about that tonight, but see how our funding is being handled. Can we better serve our residents? How can we increase our reserves? Are there other opportunities? I think really this and my relationships within the county, having served on nonprofit boards and other boards within the community, having been a government delegate for Northwestern Mutual, advocating on behalf of folks for financial services for the last 8 years, just allow me the opportunity to be able to work on your behalf and bring in a fresh voice and a new perspective to what's being laid on the dais here, and giving you guys an honest opinion on what direction the town can better go in to be better. So that's exactly it.
Mr. Shalhoub, what do you think you will bring to the town council that is currently missing?
That's a unique question for me, isn't it? So because I am on the council, I can't bring something that's missing, right? What I continue to bring, as I have, is my critical thinking analysis. There's been a lot of finance background. Bet you only one of us is a finance major. Served 2-time chair of the Finance, Taxation, and Personnel Committee, right? Owner of a business, successful lawyer. You know, literally started from nothing, a charitable cause that has raised over $250,000 for men's health, for Cancer Alliance of Help and Hope here in Palm Beach County, because I had an idea. I take action, right? The seat that I replaced it because I wanted to be a man of action, someone who was deeply entwined with our community. I was already deeply entwined with our community before I ran, and since I ran, I have doubled down on that commitment to be here for our residents. Thankfully, I have a lot of dedicated peers up here on the dais. But there's no doubt if you spoke to each of them, they will tell you that I am the hardest worker up here, that I spend a lot of time meeting with our residents, that I do everything I can at all times to look out for our residents and the interests of our town. I was actually asked by one of our residents here what I thought about the cap on the sovereign immunity. I'm a personal injury lawyer. If I had to go off of what I wanted, I wouldn't want the cap. But I don't make decisions up here based on what benefits me personally. I don't make decisions up here based on what affects my bank account. I make my decisions looking at the community as a whole. That is what I've always brought to this council, and I will continue to bring, is my work ethic and my desire to do what's in the best interest of the town as a whole, and never think of myself first.
That concludes the question and answer section of this session. We now will go into the candidate closing remarks. Each of you will be given 5 minutes for your closing remarks. Mr. Shalhoub, you will be first.
Oh, I figured it would be Mr. Maple since I went first the last time.
Oh, I was just alternating back and forth from the,
Want to go first?
No, you go ahead.
All right. Why do people run for town council, right? You got to wonder. It's a thankless job, right? I certainly don't do it for the money. In case you're wondering, it's $92 take home a month, right? For hours and hours spent each week. And people ask me why I do it. They sit there and they hear me and they go, I don't know why you do it. I'm leaving work. You're going to a meeting. Why are you doing this? Because I love our town. I love giving back to every single resident. I love providing opportunities for community, for engagement, right? Opportunities for us to share in some common experiences and have a good time. I love working up here on the dais to make sure that every time you guys come home, you come home to a community that was in a better position than it was the day before, the month before, the year before. I'm not good with complacency. I have always strived on my time on the council to move Lake Clark Shores in a positive, beneficial direction. And I'm proud to say that I have been very successful at that for the last 6 years. But there's an old Lebanese saying, you can't clap with only one hand. This is a job that takes many people, all of our town staff and our town manager, every member on this dais over the last 6 years, even though some of the seats have changed. They all had a common goal to make Lake Clark Shores continue to be the best it can be. We are literally the envy of so many communities. My perspective is not old. My perspective has brought growth to our community. My ideas have solved problems on this dais by communicating up here with my fellow councilmen to solve issues and attack problems, by spending hours on the phone with Mr. Clark, by meeting with our incoming town manager, Joe Labello, on a consistent basis. He's not even here yet, although he is right there. And he knows what I want to accomplish. I don't hesitate. I don't wait. I take action. From the moment I get a call back in 2016 and 2017 when I was campaigning to the day, I don't wait. I'm here for every single one of you. And all the ones who aren't seeing this right now but might see it later, I'm here for them. And all the ones who don't see it, I'm here for them. If you're a resident of Lake Clark Shores, I'm here for you. And I thoroughly enjoy it. And that's why I want to continue to give back. That's why I'm here. I'm very proud of a lot of what we have accomplished. And there's so much more that I want to accomplish over the next couple of years. You know, I've mentioned a couple of them with the grant funding, but I also want to, work with the county on the annexation of Edgewater Park to see how far we've come. It takes a while to do things in government. I learned that before I even got elected, because I came and I met with Dan. I said, I want to do this, this, this. We should do this. Town should do this. And he's like, slow down. Doesn't work that way. So I said, why not? It should work that way. He's like, this just doesn't. So he educated me on the process. And man, by the time I was elected, we hit the ground running. And I haven't stopped. I've been on a constant treadmill going. And I got so much energy, it doesn't bother me. It's as if I've been conditioned for it my whole life. There's some additional things that we need to address here in town as it pertains to short-term rentals. I've already been addressing that with our incoming town manager, Joe Labello. I look forward to finding some ways to get these folks registered, to get some money in from them, and to better regulate them. Now, regulate them is very difficult, but during my term, we were able to set some noise ordinances and get those addressed. And I've been working with one of our residents who still has a noise ordinance issue with not an Airbnb, but our town hall pavilion. And I've been working with him diligently and saying, look, I'm going to find an answer. And I continue to do that, because until it's told to me there is no way to do this, I'm going to keep trying. Same thing with the Blue Way Trail project. I don't need to set a deadline. There is no deadline. As long as that project's moving forward, as long as there is a way, an avenue for us to proceed, we will proceed. It doesn't need to happen in a year or 2 years. There's no year that when it happens, it's not in the best interest of our community. That is my perspective. What is in the best interest of our town, our residents? What do we need? And as long as I have all of you communicating with me, as I've been fortunate to for over the last 6 years, We're going to continue to make great strides here. We're going to continue to improve and continue to be the best town, village, municipality, city, you name it, in Palm Beach County. So I compassionately ask for you to continue to allow me to provide services to you, to continue to serve you on this town council until on March 14th, come into this town hall and vote for me. Thank you.
Mr. Maples.
First, I want to say thank you again. Thank you to each one of you. It's 9 o'clock and I see a lot of people like, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. I really appreciate each of you being here, those viewing online. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out to be here. Again, I live at 6401 Travis Road, John Maples. I'm asking for your vote. And really why I'm asking for your vote, because I have been in business as an entrepreneur, small business owner for the last 14 years at a successful financial firm where I have fiduciary responsibility to take care of my clients. Okay. Yes, my degree is in computers. It's not in finance, but I was able to take that degree and turn it into finance and be very successful at it. So my 11 years governing nonprofits, my strong conservative beliefs position me as the best candidate to serve as your councilman. You know, if we elect another attorney, not that I have anything against attorneys, are we going to get a different perspective? Are we going to get a fresh view? Are we going to get a different voice? Are we going to get a different opinion? Yes, we're not. We're going to continue to get the same thing we've gotten for the last 7 years. Now is the time. Now is the opportunity for better. I'm asking for each one of you to consider voting for me, vote by mail or March 14th here at Lake Clark Shores Town Council, or Lake Clark Shores here. So I'm asking you, will you vote for me? Can I count on you for your vote? Can I count on you to be a part of our team? I really appreciate the overwhelming support of all of you so far. I'm asking the rest of you, will you vote for John Maples March 14th, or vote by mail? Either one. Your vote matters, your vote counts. Let's get a fresh perspective, a fresh voice on the council. Thank you again, each one of you, for being here. I'm around. If you need me, you can get on my website, Vote John Maples, votemaples.com. But otherwise, I'm here. I'm available to each one of you. Again, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Thank you so much.
That concludes the candidate forum, and I want to thank the candidates and also the residents for making this a very professional candidate forum. I think it was very beneficial to all of us. Thank you.